We'd like to start out by thanking our valuable sponsors. Sense of Satisfaction by Cricket is the place for all your fragrance needs. Plus, she's got products to heal what ails your skin and your hair. Shop at scentsbycricket.com. Special thanks to our valued sponsor, John Travis, a financial coach and certified Kingdom advisor with Richard Young Associates, a registered investment advisor. Thanks goes to Anna Patterson, my sister in the Lord who faithfully gives to this ministry every month. And to our newest sponsor, LaToya Gerard of Preach the Word Worldwide Network. She is a valued sponsor and a major encourager regarding this ministry. We need and would love to have you as a sponsor. Absolutely no gift is too small. Please note the info regarding giving throughout and at the end of the show, and help us spread these testimonies around the world. Please note that the views and opinions expressed on this show are not necessarily the viewpoints of our sponsors. It's time to hear the story, make the connection, learn the lesson, and gain the wisdom. Are you ready? Let's get charged and be changed. The SisterSpeak+BrotherBreak show. Conversations on grace, healing, and deliverance. This is Marcy Bush. Come on, let's journey together. So, we are back, and this is our last segment of the mini-series. Mm-hmm. I don't even know it was a mini-series. We had a whole Netflix series.
Right.
I ain't gonna call it Marcy Flicks, but
no.
But yeah, and it's been good.
Mm-hmm.
It's been good. I think it was good for both of us.
Mm-hmm.
We've gotten a lot of real good feedback from people because a lot of times it's the behind the scenes
mm-hmm.
that help the people the most. You know, the superficial stuff, yeah, it has its place,
mm-hmm.
but kind of knowing the actual things that you and your family went through are what people can relate to.
Mm-hmm.
So
it brought a lot of stuff to light for me too. It brought a lot of things to light for me too that I never thought about, and it brought more conversations, more healing has happened since some of the shows have aired, because I've had conversations that, like I think I told you, I had a conversation with Gabby because there was something that came up and I was like, I've never had that conversation with her. You know, it was just, I thought it was just an understood thing, and then when I had the conversation, there was another portion of healing I had to go through.
Okay.
Because, you know, you don't realize when you're going through that process that it affects everyone around you. And so there was, I felt afterwards like I needed to apologize to her, because I felt like I wasn't the best friend I could have been. Gotcha. But for her, because of who she is, she just understood.
Right.
Yeah, she understood, and she knew it was okay. And she was like, even in spite of, you still my friend, like, it's fine. So
that's good.
Yeah,
that's good. But because a lot of people don't have a Gabby,
right.
And so there do need to be conversations, and sometimes in the midst of and difficult conversations at that.
Yeah.
You know, but just to say something's going on, like you mentioned before, how even Kevin said in his interview that his wife had to say, hey babe, I don't think I've seen you smile.
Yeah.
Those things that are uncomfortable to address, because I know for me, I would just be hoping that they would at some point realize it. But there's power in having the people that you love speak.
Yeah. Because some stuff you'll never know you have said or done in the midst of your hurting, you know. And so, and it's not, you know, I know sometimes, like you said, it's those uncomfortable conversations. There's times we've had to have uncomfortable conversations, and it's not that you did it out of love. And so I understood it when it was brought to me. It wasn't just you, it's other people that I've had to have conversations with, and I didn't take it as, oh, you're trying to hurt me.
Right.
It's just simply, hey, we do need to have this conversation,
right,
so that person isn't hurting and taking that on, and then offense grows and all this other stuff.
So let me ask you, because when we finished up, before now, we were talking about how the healing process had begun for you, and it seems like a lot of it was in church. Wasn't even at times necessarily directed at you, but the healing was in the atmosphere, and you were able to your spirit grabbed it before you even knew you were grabbing it.
Right.
And so in terms of some things with your mom and your dad, what are there any other things that you've done? Well, tell me how you feel. I guess it's a two-parter. So tell me how you feel, or what you would suggest to people about like having a place to go, church, where you feel that healing. And then secondly, what have you done outside of church to foster healing in yourself?
So for the first question, I think it's very, very important to, nowadays a lot of people go to therapy, and I still think that there is some level of me that does need some therapy, because even, you know, with how my story went, there was so many different components of healing that I needed even prior to my parents passing. Some of my I don't want to say issues, but even with my dad, there was so many different components of healing that I needed from that. With me being a daddy's girl, but then other things that he had done, there's a lot of healing in it. And so I think that I do need some type of therapy, but church was my therapy. That was just me personally. Church may not be the thing for everyone, but I do think that you need, let me say this. If someone has passed away that's close to you, and you feel like you're over it, you're not. And that's how I felt in those years that I was in Tennessee. I thought that I was fine.
Right.
You could not have told me that I wasn't.
Right.
Until I got back home and realized how bad I really was not okay. And so you cannot go off of how your body feels. Like literally your unconscious holds it, you know. And I don't know all the details, but I do think it's very significant that you have some place, whether it be therapy, whether it be church, or whether it be somebody that you can talk to. And then to answer the other question, for me, what I've done outside of church is I've just talked about it. I talked to my siblings about it. I talked to my roommate about it. I talked to you about it. I'm very open with talking about the process of what happened with losing my parents, the process of what happened, and even the fact that, like, how I shared on the other shows of just not even knowing that I was going through a grieving process.
Right. And
so I share it all the time. If anybody ever talks to me or asks me about my parents or how was it, I don't hesitate in sharing that. And that's part of my healing. Is, you know, because like I said, even us talking about it and sharing it with everyone, there was more healing that I went through when I watched the shows. I was like, I never thought about that. And I'm picking up the phone, calling people like, you know, how was it for you on that end? And so I definitely think that everybody's not as open to talking about it of course, at certain moments. But I think that when you get to that place of being comfortable. It's a continual thing. It's just like getting deliverance from anything.
Right.
You know, you have to have some form of accountability and all of that. And so for me,
you have to maintain
you
it.
have to maintain it. And for me, talking about it is how I maintain it, how I keep, you know, a lot of people don't want to talk about their loved ones, but I love talking about my mom. I love talking about my dad. You know, my dad, he was an awesome guy. He was. He fueled some of the things that's in me. My love for music, as you know. My daddy was if there was a top person, like a top fan, my dad was Michael Jackson's top fan. You know, we made music videos.
Yes, you did. All of you.
Yes, we were forced to. But those were the things. And so I look back watching the shows, and I'm like, I'm my mom and my dad, and it brings joy to me. And so I just encourage everyone, find you a place that you can release, whether it be just to cry.
Right. Space. That's one thing that I realized, Jessica, even in an altar call that was made a couple of weeks ago, is that even though I thought about this particular issue over and over and over and over for years, and it'd be like, okay, just let it go. Okay, it's over. Okay, it's so. I never had a space
To release.
to just let it out.
Yes.
And I'm like, for real now, I'm good. Do I still think about it? I think about it and I'm like, ooh, but I'm free.
And people don't realize to just cry.
Yeah.
Sometimes just to cry is okay. To miss somebody is okay.
Yes.
It's, you know, me talking about my mom, me talking about that. It's plenty of times me and my siblings sit around and we have cried. You know, you've seen us, and it's not.
I joined y'all.
Yes, and it's not. And even talking about it, I've cried, but yeah, I feel good afterwards. It's this moment of, I miss you, but I know you're in a better place, and I'm gonna make you proud.
Yes.
And so just take that moment. If you feel it coming, take that moment and just let it out. I mean, I know one of my uncles even shared through his grieving process where it just hit him one day in the car, and he just hollered and cried and screamed, and he felt better. It's not that you're not going to miss them, but you just got to have that release of letting it out and dealing with the process as you go. But just have that moment. If you feel like you need to cry, release it, let it go. But I do encourage people, like, it's a continual thing. Have that moment of therapy, or if you're not somebody who wants to go to therapy, have a person.
And right. If you're so closed off that you don't want the therapy, you don't want church, you don't want nobody, you don't write. Even if you write and rip it up. I would give my kids, when I was teaching, there were times when I would give them space in class to write what was on them that day. And all you need to do is flash it to me so I can see that you've written. I don't need to read your words or anything, but I need you to write what's on your heart. If you want to give it to somebody, you can give it to somebody. If you want to rip it up and put it in the trash, do that.
Right.
But we cannot live with all that stuff in us.
No, you can't move forward. There, sometimes it's even hard for the things. God won't allow us to take certain things through certain doors.
Nope.
And so you have to have that time to release. And life will life.
Oh yeah, it will.
And it will build up.
In all caps.
I'm telling you, and even with my parents passing, there's so many things that I realized, like, oh my goodness, like in the healing process, I learned how, okay, I'm not just healing from this, I'm healing from that and that and that. And there's so many things as a young adult that I'm like, I'm kind of messed up a little bit, but I'm acknowledging it.
Right.
And understanding, okay, yeah, I won't say necessarily this is who I am, but okay, I'm going to have to start dealing with these things so that I don't hurt somebody else in the process of it.
And what I've seen in us doing these shows, not just you sitting here, but you being behind the camera for every show, what I've noticed over and over and over is people really finding themselves in their journey, because you're just living it in real time. And a lot of times we just go through it and we never stop on the other side to say, oh, I went through this, or this started back there, or whether it's the good, the bad, how God orchestrated it. A lot of times we're just day by day,
celebrate your
and we don't
victories.
look at the map that got us here.
You have to celebrate your victories, because like you said, you'll go through life and not even realizing, oh my gosh, look how far I done come. You know, for me, like, I didn't realize how many years of this I had went through, but like looking at where I am now, it's like I pat myself on the back, you know. So
I'm not cutting you off. I was just looking at what because I wrote down a few things I wanted to make sure to ask.
Okay.
What are some of the most valuable lessons that you feel like you've learned to date? If you had to give me a couple of valuable lessons.
Okay, so many. Because the reason why I say it's so many, I usually piggyback. I know it's not just specific to my parents, but with my mom, in the years to me being 21 when she passed, I didn't realize how much she had taught me. But one of my number one things, and one of the number one things she taught is, and it's do unto others as you have them do unto you. That's my biggest, oh my goodness, like that's the number one thing for my life. That's my motto. I don't treat anybody any way that I wouldn't want to be treated.
Right.
I don't like people being done wrong or done unfair. That's probably number one. Everybody's not your friend. That was my mama's. That was another one. My mama was big. I mean, even when I was in elementary school.
Well, you're helping me, because the two things you've said so far, that's what I keep trying to put in my grandson, and he's only 5, but I need him to get it.
Yeah. So those are the two that come to mind. But I would say overall, like if I had to sum up my life, don't stop. Don't stop. And the reason I just put it as that is because there were so many obstacles in my life that threw monkey wrenches at me, and so many things that kind of discouraged me. Even knowing who I am, you know, never thought in a million years I would be doing what I'm doing now. And that's just because, like, I'd never stop. I never stop. Family wouldn't let me stop. You know, I know my mom would not allow me to stop.
Right.
And it's been plenty of times where I got discouraged, but just I never gave up. So just don't stop. No matter what it is, just keep pushing through it. You gonna, like we talked about, you gonna turn around and realize you're on the other side of it. And you're gonna be greater for the things that you went through. They're just, I always look at it as anything that I'm going through is just making me greater for the next door that I'm walking through.
Yes, that's good. Let's see. We kind of already hit on that one, because I put about well, I guess we can do it. Can you summarize what you want people to know? I know we've talked extensively about it, but if you had to give us a nugget, can you summarize what you want people to know about grief and how it can possibly affect the people involved?
Grief doesn't have what's the word I'm looking for? Like a mold. It comes in different shapes, different sizes. It's, you know, people deal with it so differently, you know, and acknowledge, especially and grief isn't just for someone who's passed. Grief is relationships. it can be so many different
Loss
things.
of a job.
Yeah. And you don't realize that you are grieving those things.
Right. Divorce.
Yeah. And so I think my thing is acknowledge from head on. Acknowledge, okay. Because that's what I had to do with my dad, because it did not affect me the way I thought it would at first. And so I found myself just saying out loud, okay, my dad is not here anymore. My dad is gone. You know, so that I could remind myself, remind my mind, remind my body, okay, if we're going to deal with this, let's deal with it. Right. And I do. When it comes to my father, I self-examine often to make sure that my emotions aren't affecting the people around me like it did with my mom. Right. So acknowledge the fact that I lost this job. Am I okay? I lost this person. Am I okay? And even throughout it, just do those self-examinations just to make sure. And like I said before, if you feel as though you need to have some form of whatever type of therapy it is. Therapy isn't always just talking to someone. Sometimes therapy is just being by yourself. Sometimes therapy is just be able to have a conversation like this with a loved one or somebody that can understand. And sometimes therapy is just crying and getting it out. And if you don't, if you don't, it can affect the people around you significantly, because to them, they don't know what's going on with you. They don't know. Right. You know, my mom passed, but y'all didn't know how bad it was going to affect all four of us. Right. And to this day, it's been years. Right. And to this day, it still affects us. And sometimes it affects our reactions to things. But me saying that, then you can say, are you okay today? Right. You know what I'm saying? And so letting the people around you know, like, say I'm not okay. Right. There's nothing. I think we go through life and it's almost like we're raised. Hey, how you doing? I'm good. It's been days where, you know, you'll ask me, hey, how you doing? I'll be like, and I'll just shake my head. And you have to be honest with yourself and honest with the people around you, because then they know how to deal with you and you know how to deal with yourself. Right. So yeah. Good.
You may have touched on this, I'm not sure. Best piece of advice you ever received?
Be yourself. That's been my motto for the past, probably now. That was a part of my healing, but that was probably the past 3 years, maybe. Yeah, 3 or 4 years. Because, and that's a whole nother show we're not even gonna get into. But being myself, because for so long trying to find out who I was in the mix of siblings who were very intelligent. They know what they want to go to school for, you know, being around, I'm a tomboy and I'm, you know, all my friends are girly girls and not really knowing where I fit. And my mom, just be you, be yourself. And that's, I got a line that's about to come out, just be you, be yourself. And just understanding that one thing that I had to understand was everybody's not going to be happy with who you are, and you can't please everybody. And so the number one person I want to please other than God is me. And if I'm happy with the way that I look, I'm happy with who I am, and I'm not hurting anybody, I think I'm perfectly fine. Yes. And so I just encourage people, just be you. Don't try to be nobody else, because you can't.
Cannot.
You can't.
Cannot.
So just be the greatest you can be. That's my takeaway on life right now.
Yes. And I agree. And lastly, what is your greatest accomplishment thus far?
That's kind of hard because I would say, I don't know if it's an accomplishment, but I don't know if this would be an accomplishment, but I think the thing that I'm most happy with right now is spending more time with my grandparents. Mm-hmm. It's just made them smile. And I ain't gonna cry. Mm-hmm. But I am gonna cry.
And we didn't put tissue out.
We didn't. But I think I didn't know how special they were to me. I was not gonna cry.
And me either.
But it feels good to be able to, even when I'm not around, that they're thinking about me. And I'm thinking about them. And you know, things have happened recently where we've had to spend more time together. But just spending time with them and seeing the joy and that they're proud of me. Mm-hmm. Like, not having my parents here to say it, but when my grandparents, you know, they tell me that they're proud of me. And it takes, if you don't know my grandparents, not to say it takes a lot to please them, it don't, but for all that they've done in their lifetime, right, to even try to measure up to anywhere that they are. So I think, like I said, I don't know if that's an accomplishment, but just being able to walk in.
That's something that really pleases you.
Yes. So that's big for me. Because my grandparents, like, they in their 90s, mm-hmm, you know, and
90 and 94.
And still kicking.
Yeah.
And so it just means a lot, you know, to walk in the house and them happy to see me. Mm-hmm. That just means a lot to me. Mm-hmm. Out of everything that I can do, that I've done, that's probably the biggest thing for me.
So we really do want to thank Jessica for being so transparent and sharing her life with us. She went deep. I'm grateful for the conversations that have started or continued because of our time together. And I just want to ask you to share, because there's one thing that everybody in the world can relate to, and that's loss of some kind. That's pain of some kind. So I want to ask you to share this share it on your platforms. If there are any people that you want to share it with personally, privately, do that as well. But just share the message. And then I want to ask you to join us again next week. Same place, same time, for the Sister Speak Brother Break show. Be blessed. Thanks so much for joining us today. If you've been blessed by today's show, feel free to let us know. And if you'd like to sow into this ministry, become a sponsor, or contact us, you can reach us at 803-221-0169. Or you can email us at thessbbshow@gmail.com. Let's continue this journey together.